The first time I met my fiancé's family, I knew they didn't like me. Not even a little. His mom, Denise, smiled like her teeth were glued together, and his two sisters, Emily and Lauren, gave me a once-over like I was a roach that crawled onto their rug. I smiled back anyway because I was raised to be polite and I thought, hey, maybe they just need time to get to know me. But no. Time only made it worse. They thought I wasn't their kind of people. I didn't come from a rich family. I worked as a nurse at a local hospital, and I had student loans. Meanwhile, they lived in a gated community, wore designer everything, and thought struggling was when their Amazon package came a day late. My fiancé, Jake, was amazing, kind, supportive, funny, and totally blind to how nasty his family could be. Every time I told him what they said or did, he'd say something like, "That's just how they are," or "they'll come around." But they didn't. And eventually, I stopped trying to win them over. That was until the wedding planning started. Jake and I were excited, making plans for a small, intimate ceremony at this beautiful garden in the countryside. But Denise had other ideas. She offered to help, and suddenly we were planning a massive wedding at a hotel ballroom she picked. Every time I tried to push back, she'd smile and say, "You'll thank me later, sweetie." I knew what she was doing. She was taking control, trying to make me feel like a guest at my own wedding. It wasn't just the venue. She tried to pick my dress, the music, even the bridesmaids. And the worst part? She and her daughters planned a bachelorette party for me, without even asking me. It was at a country club I'd never been to, filled with women I didn't know, all sipping champagne and making passive-aggressive jokes about starter wives and second weddings. Still, I kept my cool. I didn't want to start drama. But then the dress incident happened. I had picked out a beautiful, simple gown that I absolutely loved, nothing too flashy, just elegant and timeless. But when I showed up for the final fitting, I found out it had been changed. My gown had been replaced with another one, frilly, way too tight, and bright ivory with glittering rhinestones all over it. The kind of dress you'd wear to a pageant, not a wedding. I asked the boutique manager what happened and she said, "Oh, your mother-in-law said you changed your mind." I nearly lost it right there. I called Jake, and he was shocked. He promised to fix it, but the boutique said the original dress had been given away and the new one was non-refundable. That night, I cried. I wasn't even angry, I was tired. I was tired of trying to be nice. Tired of biting my tongue. Tired of pretending this wasn't all on purpose. I started wondering if I should just cancel the wedding altogether. But then something inside me flipped. No. I wasn't going to run away. I was going to walk down that aisle. But not as their puppet. I was going to take back my day. I started planning quietly. I contacted a seamstress I trusted and described the original dress. I told her I needed a new version of it, but better. One that would fit me like a glove and make jaws drop. She worked day and night, and when I tried it on, I actually teared up. It was perfect. Then came the second part of my plan, the entrance. I knew Denise and her daughters were already plotting to make me look small. I overheard Emily on the phone with someone saying, "She'll walk in and disappear in that sea of glitter. It'll be hilarious." I smiled and walked past like I hadn't heard. Oh, they were going to be so surprised. The day of the wedding came. Denise had made sure her florist covered the entire ballroom in white roses and fake crystals. It looked like someone poured a glitter bomb over a winter wonderland. Jake was busy with his groomsmen, and I could tell he was nervous. He still had no idea what I had planned, and I wanted it that way. I let Denise think I'd be wearing the rhinestone nightmare dress. She even sent a photographer to capture the transformation. I let them take photos of me pretending to try it on in the dressing room. Then, 15 minutes before I was supposed to walk down the aisle, I changed. My maid of honor, Rachel, my best friend since college, helped me slip into the real dress, the one that actually felt like me. My hair was done in soft waves, and my makeup was natural but striking. I looked in the mirror and didn't see a girl trying to please people. I saw a woman ready to own her moment. And then it was time. I waited behind the ballroom doors, my heart pounding in my chest. The music started. I heard the shuffle of guests standing, the quiet gasps of excitement. But what they didn't expect, what no one expected, was the twist I had planned next. As the doors opened, instead of the wedding march playing, the soft sound of a string quartet started echoing through the room. I had hired live musicians to replace the DJ last minute. They played our song, Jake's and mine, from our first date. It was subtle, beautiful, and totally out of sync with Denise's over-the-top plan. As I stepped forward, the light hit the gown, and the fabric shimmered in the softest, most elegant way, not the blinding, tacky sparkle of rhinestones, but a quiet glow that made me look like I had walked out of a dream. There was a collective gasp from the crowd. Denise's face twisted in confusion, and I saw Emily whisper something to Lauren, both of them craning their necks in shock. People began to clap, something not even planned, because I didn't look like someone walking into a trap. I looked like someone who had just stolen the show. But the real moment that sent a shockwave through the room came just seconds after I stepped onto the aisle, when someone else stood up and walked right toward the altar. Everyone in the ballroom froze. A tall woman in a navy blue suit stood up from the third row and began walking slowly but confidently down the aisle. Her heels clicked sharply on the polished floor, cutting through the music like thunder. I didn't recognize her. None of us did, but Jake's eyes widened when he saw her. Denise's face, on the other hand, went pale. The woman reached the altar, turned to face the crowd, and spoke in a calm but firm voice. Apologies for the interruption, but I have a short statement. My name is Kimberly Rhodes, Regional Director at Whitmore Enterprises. A murmur swept through the crowd. Kimberly continued, "It has come to my attention that the bride was removed from our foundation's finalist list due to pressure from this family, specifically Mrs. Denise Walton, who told our board she was an unfit public face for our scholarship program." Now the room went dead silent. My stomach dropped. I knew Denise had done something behind my back. I had been nominated for a foundation scholarship for career advancement in nursing, and then suddenly I wasn't. The rejection email was cold and vague. It hurt, but I had let it go, thinking maybe I just wasn't chosen. Kimberly went on, her voice rising. "We have since found emails and messages proving this manipulation. I'm pleased to announce that Ms. Sawyer," she looked right at me, "has been reinstated and her scholarship approved in full, along with a bonus for emotional distress. Congratulations." Gasps erupted all around. Someone even clapped. Jake stood there speechless. Denise, sitting in the front row, looked like her soul had left her body. I couldn't move. I was frozen between rage and shock and, weirdly, deep satisfaction. Kimberly nodded respectfully at me and turned to Jake. "Sorry again. I won't take any more of your time. Please continue your ceremony." Then she walked right out the door, like a boss. The string quartet picked the music back up like nothing happened, and I finally started walking again. Jake looked at me like I had just appeared from a dream. When I reached the altar, he leaned in and whispered, "What just happened?" I smiled. Justice. For a brief moment, I thought Denise might actually get up and stop the ceremony. But she didn't. She just sat there, stunned, her daughters glaring at her like she had ruined everything. The ceremony went on, and it was beautiful. Jake's vows made me cry, and when I read mine, I spoke from the heart, not just to him, but to everyone watching. I said, "I've learned that sometimes people will try to steal your joy. But when you know your worth, you stop asking for permission to shine." It was a quiet moment, but it landed. After we were pronounced husband and wife, Jake kissed me and whispered, "You're incredible. I'm sorry I didn't see it all before." I believed him. I really did. But I also knew the night wasn't over yet. The reception was where Denise had put most of her effort. She'd hired a celebrity chef, flown in ice sculptures, and even booked some snooty classical pianist to perform instead of a DJ. It was stuffy, uptight, and nothing like what Jake and I wanted. But I had one more surprise in store. I had secretly hired a second crew, my own crew, and at exactly 8 p.m., the pianist's mic cut out. A second later, a new beat dropped. The ballroom lights dimmed, and a spotlight lit up a small stage at the back of the room, where my DJ stood with a mic. "Let's hear it for the bride and groom." Our friends, my friends, burst through a side door and took over the dance floor. It was a flash mob. They danced to our favorite song, the one Jake and I always blasted in the kitchen while cooking dinner. People were stunned, but then they laughed,
clapped, joined in.
The energy shifted. The cold, stiff atmosphere melted away. Even Jake jumped in. We danced like we were in our own world, spinning and laughing while Denise looked on like she'd swallowed a lemon whole. A few of Jake's cousins joined the dance floor. Even some of the older relatives ditched their tables and started grooving. Suddenly, it felt like our wedding. Of course, Denise wasn't done. I was walking to get some water when I overheard her talking to Emily and Lauren. She hijacked my event. This was supposed to be about family, about tradition, not some circus show. I swear, if she thinks this means she's won. And then she said something that made my blood go cold. She won't make it past the first year. I've already made plans. I froze behind the pillar, heart pounding. What did she mean by that? Was she planning to sabotage our marriage? Before I could step out and confront her, something even worse happened. Denise marched onto the stage, grabbed the mic from the DJ, and said loudly, "Attention, everyone. I think it's time you all knew the truth about our lovely bride." The room fell silent. People turned toward the stage. My heart felt like it stopped. She stared straight at me with a venomous smile. I didn't want to say this on her special day, but I can't stand by anymore. She paused dramatically, milking the moment. I recently found out that our bride was in a relationship with someone else while dating my son. A serious relationship. I stood frozen. She was lying. "I have the proof," she continued, pulling out her phone. Photos. Messages. Time-stamped. "Jake, I didn't want to hurt you. But she's been playing you from day one." Gasps filled the air.
People turned to look at me.
Jake looked like he'd been punched in the gut.
And
I couldn't believe it. I wanted to scream, to cry, to throw something. But instead, I took a deep breath. Because I had come prepared. I looked Denise dead in the eye. And slowly, I reached for my phone. The revenge wasn't over. Not even close. My fingers didn't shake as I pulled my phone from the clutch hanging at my side. I had been hoping I wouldn't need it. I had prayed that Denise might keep her drama to herself, just for one day. But deep down, I knew she wouldn't. So, I had made sure I was ready. I tapped my phone a few times and turned the screen toward Jake, holding it up high enough for everyone near the stage to see. His brows furrowed, confused at first, until the video started playing. And just like that, Denise's face turned ghost white. The video showed her,
clear as day,
sitting at a cafe with a man in a charcoal gray suit, Jake's boss, no less. They were talking quietly, but the mic picked up every word. "I just need him to leave her," Denise said. "He's blinded by her. If you cut back on his hours, push him a little, he'll crack. She'll look like the reason he's falling apart. Then he'll come to his senses." The man replied, "You want me to sabotage his career, so your son dumps his fiancée?" She gave him a sweet, sinister smile and nodded. "If it helps save him from a mistake, then yes. I'll pay whatever it costs." You could hear her ice cubes clinking in her glass as she stirred it unbothered. I had recorded that video weeks ago, after I overheard her on a call and decided to follow her. I had hired a friend of mine, a journalism major who dabbled in private investigation work, to help. We waited, watched, and recorded. And it all led to this. Gasps spread through the crowd like wildfire. Jake took the phone, watched the whole thing again. He didn't say a word. He just looked at his mother with wide, stunned eyes. You tried to ruin me." Denise's mouth flapped open, trying to speak, but no sound came out. Then Jake turned to the crowd, still holding the mic Denise had snatched earlier. His voice was quiet, but full of emotion. "I'm sorry, everyone. I didn't know my own mother would go this far to hurt someone I love. Sawyer has done nothing but love me, support me, and stand strong in the face of all of this. And I let my family treat her like a problem. That ends now." He looked at me, then back to the crowd. "And for the record, she didn't cheat. I know her. I trust her. This is just another one of my mom's lies." The ballroom erupted in applause. Some people whistled. A few guests actually stood up and cheered. Emily and Lauren sank in their seats, avoiding eye contact with anyone. Denise stormed off the stage, her heels clicking furiously as she pushed past guests and disappeared out a side exit. Jake handed me the mic and whispered, "Say something. Say whatever you want." I looked out at the crowd. My chest was tight, but not with fear, with strength. So I spoke. I wasn't going to say anything tonight. I didn't want to steal the spotlight or cause a scene. But now that the spotlight is here, let me just say this. Kindness isn't weakness. Patience isn't stupidity. And silence isn't agreement. I paused as the room listened intently. I didn't fight back before, because I thought I had to earn my place. But now I see I never had to prove anything. Not to anyone. Especially not people who think tearing others down makes them bigger. There was a soft murmur of agreement from the crowd. A few guests even wiped their eyes. Jake and I came here to start our life together. I continued. And that's exactly what we're going to do. But from now on, we're doing it on our terms. No more manipulation. No more cruelty disguised as tradition. Just love. Real love. I handed the mic back and kissed Jake. The room exploded with cheers. But just when I thought it was over, a new twist came in like a lightning bolt. The hotel's event manager approached me and Jake quietly. "I'm so sorry to interrupt," she said. "But something's happened. The suite that was reserved for your wedding night has been canceled." "Cancelled?" Jake asked, confused. The manager nodded. "By your mother. She called earlier and claimed you decided to stay elsewhere. The room has already been given to another guest." My stomach dropped. Of course. Denise must have done it out of spite, probably hoping we'd end the night arguing or scrambling for a backup. The manager continued. "We tried calling the number on file, but she had it changed. We didn't want to disturb the ceremony, but..." Jake sighed and looked at me. "She really tried to ruin everything, didn't she?" I smiled. Let her try. Because what Denise didn't know was, I had already booked a backup suite at a completely different hotel across the city. Just in case. We left the ballroom an hour later, hand in hand, tired but glowing. Our guests were still partying without us, and honestly, let them.
They were having a blast.
We slid into the back seat of the limo Jake's uncle had gifted us and drove off under the stars. But just when we thought the surprises were over, Jake's phone buzzed. He looked down and frowned. "It's from HR," he said, confused. "For my company. It's a forwarded email from Mom." He opened it, and his whole body went still. "She just sent them a letter trying to get me fired," he said slowly, reading the message. "She claimed I was abusive to her and that I've been stealing company data." I sat back, stunned. "She really wants to destroy you," I whispered. "No," Jake said, gripping my hand. "She wants to control me. But she's about to find out I don't work for her anymore." He looked me in the eyes. "Let's finish this." The next morning, sunlight poured through the wide glass windows of our hotel suite, but neither of us had slept much. Not because we were newlyweds enjoying our first night, though we did get a few sweet hours of peace, but because of that email. Jake couldn't stop thinking about it. His own mother trying to get him fired on his wedding night. He kept rereading the words, trying to understand how far she was willing to go. "She said I abused her," he muttered again, sitting on the edge of the bed in a t-shirt and sweatpants, phone in hand. "And that I accessed company files illegally. Why would she do this?" I sat up behind him and rubbed his back. "Because she's losing control, Jake. People like her, when they realize they can't manipulate you anymore, they lash out. Hard." He looked back at me. "What if HR believes her?" "She has no proof," I said softly. "But you do have proof of what she tried to do. That recording from the cafe? That's enough to expose her motives. Especially to your boss." Jake nodded slowly. "You're right. She wanted a war. We'll give her one." He dressed in a sharp navy blazer, still wearing his wedding ring like a badge of honor, and we headed straight to his company's headquarters. We didn't call ahead. We didn't want to give Denise or anyone else time to spin a new lie. When we arrived, Jake requested a meeting with HR and his direct manager. Luckily, his boss, Mr. Stanton, was in the office that day. The meeting started off cold. "We received a troubling email," the HR manager said, adjusting her glasses. "It alleges abusive behavior and data theft." "I know," Jake replied. "That email was written by my mother. It's completely false. And I can prove it." He handed over his phone and played the recording from the wedding, the one where Denise admitted to trying to sabotage his career, including asking Jake's own boss to cut back his hours and pressure him into ending our relationship. Mr. Stanton, who had also been present in that video, turned beet red. "I had no idea she recorded that," he muttered. "I'm sorry, Jake. I should have shut it down right then." Jake smiled, but it didn't quite reach his eyes. "I'm not looking to make trouble. I just want to protect my job and make sure she can't keep doing this." The HR manager paused, then said, "We'll open a formal investigation into the harassment claims. And in the meantime, we'll mark the email as malicious intent." "Thank you for being transparent." Jake nodded. "Thank you." When we left the office, there was a heavy silence in the elevator. Then Jake turned to me and asked, "Do you think she's done yet?" I scoffed. "With someone like her? Not a chance." And I was right. That evening, we returned to our apartment to find something chilling. Our front door had been opened. Not busted or broken, just unlocked. Jake slowly pushed it open. Everything inside seemed untouched until we noticed the dining table. On it sat a photo album, our engagement photos to be exact. Each picture had a sticky note on it with ugly words scribbled in thick black ink.
Fake. Slut.
Cheater. Loser. Mistake. And beside it, an envelope addressed to me, in Denise's handwriting. Jake picked it up and opened it while I stood frozen. Inside was a note that read, "You may have fooled everyone else, but I see you for who you really are. Enjoy the show while it lasts, because your spotlight is burning out." There was no signature, just a black smear across the bottom, like she'd slammed the pen down in anger. Jake immediately called the building's front desk. Security footage showed that Denise had used his old emergency key that she'd insisted on keeping for safety. That was the final straw. We called the police. We filed for a restraining order. And Jake made the hardest decision of his life. He cut ties with his mother. He blocked her number. Changed the locks. Informed all of his extended family that she was no longer welcome in our lives. Emily and Lauren tried to guilt him, but Jake stood firm. "If you side with her, you can stay with her," he said, dead serious. And then he did something that shocked even me. He submitted the full recording and Denise's threatening letter to his company's board. Not for punishment, but to propose a company-wide ethics training program that included how to handle family interference, harassment, and abuse in the workplace. Something meaningful. Something that could protect other employees who might be facing the same kind of quiet emotional warfare. The board not only agreed, they promoted him for his integrity and leadership. 2 months later, Jake stood in front of his entire company during a leadership summit and shared our story, not naming names, but telling the truth. I sat in the front row, tears in my eyes, watching the same man who once used to say, "She'll come around," now saying, "Sometimes you have to walk away, even from family, to protect your peace." As for me,
I didn't just get married that day.
I got freedom. Freedom from constantly explaining myself. Freedom from shrinking to fit someone else's mold. And most importantly, freedom to be exactly who I was, loudly, proudly, unapologetically. Now, whenever people ask me about my wedding, I tell them the truth. Yes, my in-laws tried to humiliate me, but I didn't just survive. I stole the show. And I owned it.